guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called I'll Be the Matriarch in This Life. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! The story begins just outside the great Lombardi's estate, where people have gathered largely because they can't believe the great family has committed tax evasion and treason. Our female lead is one of the onlookers, and she's clearly furious as she curses the family for supporting the first prince, despite her repeated warnings that he'll never become crown prince. Let me fill you in on the Lombardi family before we get into the drama. They are the family who crowned the first emperor of the empire, hence, their crest features a world tree, which symbolizes limitless wealth. Simply put, the Lombardi family's history is intertwined with that of the empire. Therefore, for years, the family amassed unimaginable wealth and fought historic wars, which made the Imperial family feel threatened. Therefore, when Lulac Lombardi assumed leadership of the family, the Imperial family issued a golden decree to restrict the family's activities. In response, the great Lulac devised a scholarship system to nurture talented individuals, regardless of their status. Within no time, those he patronized began to occupy the most important positions in the empire, prompting the emperor to revoke his decree. Going back to the present, Firentia, our female protagonist with the short hair looking like a baddie, is enraged since she used to be a Lombardi. You see, in her previous life, she was a little girl who met her death at the hands of Truckcoon, who chose to have her reincarnated in this world. And as soon as she opened her eyes as a baby in her new life, her eyes went sparkly to be born with a silver spoon. Unfortunately, Firentia's life isn't as perfect as she imagines it to be. Galahad Lombardi, her father, is the third son of the Duke, but her mother, a commoner, died giving birth to her and never received official recognition as a fiancée, leading to her being considered an illegitimate child. Worse, her father passed away before she turned 11, and her family disregarded her after that. In response, she resolved to continue studying and eventually took charge of the Lombardi household and her grandfather's affairs when she was 19 years old. As Firentia cared for her sick grandfather, he reflected on how he had overlooked an opportunity to pass the family on to her if he had known about her talent sooner. After hearing his heartfelt apology for neglecting her as a child, the Duke passed away, and she felt an urge to take care of the Lombardi family, but not until her uncle Viese immediately kicked her out. The family sounds trash. And now, barely 2 years after she left, the Lombardi are in shambles. And she goes on a drinking binge in a pub because she is still furious that they didn't choose the second prince, Perez Brivichal-Dorelli. Despite beginning as a misfit and the son of a maid, Perez Brivichal-Dorelli rose to prominence due to his recognition for excellence in both academics and military studies. As Firentia makes her way home, her intoxication nearly leads her to stumble, oblivious to the fact that a carriage awaits her death. Goodness gracious, Truckcoon's ancestor, Carriage Sama! When Firentia opens her eyes, she is surprised to see her father beside her, whom she misses so much that she cannot help but tear up. Daddy looks so handsome and innocent. However, she wants to figure out what's going on with her first, so she rushes to her room, where she is shocked to discover that she is just an adorable little munchkin with long curly hair. She checks her knees and notices that she still does not have the scar she had when she was 8, causing her to realize that she has regressed. Wow, reincarnation and then regression? While she is still reeling from the shock, the realization that she has the chance to save her father in this life brings tears of joy to her eyes. With her future knowledge, she feels she'll be able to save the entire family, and in order to do so, she must ensure that Viese does not become the family's head. Viese made the wrong decision to support the first prince because his wife, Celal, is cousins with the first prince's mother and the empress, Lavini Anginus. Tia continues to ponder who would be a suitable leader for the Lombardi family, until it suddenly hits her. If her grandfather recognized her talent, then why shouldn't she? Yes, armed with information about the future 20 years from now, our sweet little Tia is now determined to become the head of the Lombardi family. But first, she needs to earn her grandpa Lulac's trust. I love how confident you are, rooting for our baby here. Adorable Tia visits the library to meet Rochelle, the family's librarian and a former famous professor. After borrowing a book, she goes just outside her grandfather's office to wait for her father to come out. And in the meantime, she sits down to read the book she had always wanted to read in the past. However, her cherished moments with her book are cut short when 2 of her cousins appear. Belazak, the eldest grandchild who will become a famed playboy in the future, and Astaliu, who will abuse the family's wealth to fund his gambling addiction. Today, they are merely two dweeby little pipsqueaks, causing Tia to laugh unintentionally. This causes the two lads to harass her by calling our sweetheart half-breed, reminding her how much she feared them before because of their severe bullying behavior. However, this will never happen again, so she stands firm as she informs her older cousins, Belizak and Astalio, that she is simply a 7-year-old kid, while they are 10 and 8 years old, respectively, so she asks them to stop being so immature. Belizak, unable to believe Tia is lecturing him, pulls her hair and sarcastically asserts that they aren't equals because she isn't truly a Lombardi. Oh well, Tia has had enough acting nice, so she headbutts Belizak, gazes at him with rage, and then hits him with a book, while Astalio stands there terrified. Quotes for the day? Reading books make things make sense, but if you really want to knock someone's sense into them, you can hit them with a book. The commotion reaches their grandfather's office, and they are shocked to discover the two kids brawling on the floor. Our girl is obviously winning, by the way. Viese immediately pushes Tia, and Daddy Gallahan rushes to embrace his daughter. However, they all pause in fear as Grandpa Lulak orders them to stop. He then demands Astalio to explain what happened, and this little snake lies, claiming Tia began the fight, which irritates my tiny pea. When Belizak adds that Firentia despised them from the beginning, Grandpa Lulak looks at him angrily and tells him he should never cut someone off in a conversation. Knowing this is her grandpa's pet peeve, Tia remains silent until he requests to hear her side of the story. When her turn comes, she adamantly denies any wrongdoing, explaining that she was only waiting for her father when the two little poops showed up, mockingly calling her a half-breed, and that Belizak was the one who initially hit her, demanding that she return to the commoner's home. Although she can see that her father's heart breaks for her, Tia must ensure that everyone in this life is aware of how she is treated at the mansion. She then goes on to remark that she accepts her status as a commoner's daughter, but she's also proud to say that she is a Lombardi. Look at her green eyes! They exude so much confidence. Lulak is pleased with her answers when he notices that her knees must be bleeding, prompting Gallahan to ask if they can leave immediately to treat Tia's injuries, to which Lulak agrees. Tia hurriedly picks up her weapon, the book, and bows to her grandfather before they leave. As her father and daughter prepare to depart, Viese becomes quite agitated and exclaims that they must punish Tia, prompting Lulak to shoot him a death gaze, wondering whether Viese is doubting his judgment. After Lulak closes his office and dismisses them, Gallahan looks at Viese in disbelief and says that he is overreacting to a minor fight between the kids, while baby Tia puts out her tongue. Why does this duo still look so adorable when angry? Gallahan's brothers are taken aback by his abrupt change, but the two simply walk away as Tia snuggles over her father's shoulder and loves his scent. I think I love your daddy too, Tia. Following the treatment of Firentia's knee wound, the doctor asks if she has sustained any additional injuries. Firentia then shows her swelling wrist, an injury she accidentally got when Viese pushed her, leading the doctor to make a thorough examination and give her medication. After the doctor leaves, Gallahan gets down on one knee to ask why she doesn't speak up about her cousin's mistreatment, and she reveals while staring into his worried eyes that they threaten to harm her more if she speaks up, which really enrages him. However, she promises him that she will fight back and not let them intimidate her again, so she begs her father not to worry since she's fine. This brings tears to her gala daddy's eyes, and they hug, seeking comfort in one another's presence. Her plump cheeks are too much for my heart. Firentia then declares that they live happily together for a long time, to which her father cheerfully accepts, unaware of the significance of her words. It is so refreshing to see a soft daddy like him. He doesn't need to understand the real meaning of her words because she is determined to save Daddy and the Lombardi family in this lifetime. Today, with her cute blue outfit as she sits with a book on her lap, Firentia is lost in ideas on how to grab her grandfather's attention. In her past life, Grandpa Lulak could not assign the family's affairs to any of his children until he fell sick, handling things personally until the very end. With this knowledge in mind, Tia plans to show her abilities to him before he dies. But she is aware that her status as an illegitimate child and her gender may impede her success. However, she is confident that the second prince will be a huge support, and she believes she must gain his favor in order to prevent the Lombardi family from being exterminated. Now that she thinks about it, the second prince's mother died about this time, and as much as she wants to visit him right now, the Lombardi children aren't permitted to go outside until they turn 11. Suddenly, Clerivan, her grandfather's right-hand man, knocks on the door, which surprises her father. But she is even more astonished when he says his motive for being there is to speak with her. Excuse me, but the spectacles, long blonde hair, and blue eyes means another daddy, isn't he? Actually, After the children's fight, when her grandfather saw Firentia with the research-oriented book People of the South, he sought Clerivan's opinion. Clerivan explained that the book is not suitable for Firentia, who hasn't even turned 10, so he believed that the young lady must have mistakenly believed it to be a fairy tale book. Although this is normally the case, Lulak is curious if Firentia is different and asks Clerivan to confirm his suspicion. He also wants Firentia to join his class with the other children, as he thinks that she might have inherited his genes, which Clerivan refuses to believe. Still, he cannot ignore the Duke's instruction, but he does declare that he will personally test Firentia and that if she fails to meet his expectations, he will not allow her to join his class. Returning to the present, the ever-ready Firentia introduces herself perfectly to him, surprising him with how well she displays manners. Tia already knows what's going on, and the only reason Clerivan wants to visit her is to assess her. Underneath the seemingly ordinary home education, the Lombardi's class serves as a harsh first evaluation of the family's children. Regardless of their age, only those who are ready to catch up to the class are allowed to participate, and their level is determined based on their actual age when they begin classes. With no set specific age for completion of the class, any notice of withdrawal results in disqualification. Additionally, every class evaluation goes straight to Grandpa Lulak, who is more strict than anyone else and watches every word and action of the children. Tia's assessment begins when Clerivan mentions the book she's currently holding, which he knows she borrowed herself, causing her to smirk as she realizes grandfather noticed it the last time. She gleefully tells him that she's been reading it a little and knows that it is about the new people who have gathered in the Empire's southern forests. This leads Clerivan to ask for the author's name, and Tia obviously gives the correct answer. He then asks more questions regarding the book, and our girl consistently gives him the right answer. However, when he refers to the author as he, Firentia reacts and corrects him, pointing out that the author is actually she, and she demonstrates that the book does mention this. Curious, he checks the book himself, only to learn that he has made a legitimate mistake. Despite this, he smiles and welcomes her to join his class, much to Gala Daddy's delight, while he cuddles his little baby. Today, Daddy bribes Tia to go on an outing with him since they need to go to the doctor's clinic for her checkup, which our girl can already tell, yet she plays along and gladly accepts. How can I not fall in love with these two when they are so adorable? When they arrive, they unexpectedly meet the doctor's student, Estira, prompting Firentia to immediately approach her and express her desire to receive treatment from her, which Daddy initially opposes. But who could refuse such determined eyes as baby Tia? Not gonna lie, I thought she was already shipping the really pretty Estira with Gala Daddy, but it appears that this future doctor will be the one to develop a treatment for her father. As Estira begins to check her wrist, Tia sees that her hands are trembling and decides to strike up a conversation with her to help ease her nervousness, creating a relaxing ambiance. Meanwhile, inside the Duke's office, he excitedly awaits Clerivan's report on his testing of his granddaughter. Clerivan then states that Firentia has been hiding her abilities all along, leading the Duke to believe that her father's position and lack of skills are to blame. So now he plans to keep an eye on Firentia for the time being. He then instructs Clerivan to report to him immediately following each class. They are still conversing when they hear a knock on the door, and Viese enters, announcing the arrival of the Dairock Guild. Oh, this punchable face again! The guild appears to be planning to sell clothing to the eastern region of the capital, but because the guild lacks the capacity to handle such a distance, they want to form a partnership with the Lombardi to handle the delivery, as well as get a loan from the Lombardi Bank for the business. Despite the fact that Croyton Anginus, the Dairock Guild's representative, is a member of the Empress's family, Clerivan is enraged by the guy's boldness in making such a losing deal, which means that the funding and hard labor are all passed on to the Lombardi, but they will enjoy all the glory. Worse, if the business fails, Lombardi would face the entire loss, so Clerivan believes the Duke will never accept. But to his surprise, Lulak gives Viese the go-ahead to proceed with the partnership. Viese is eager to make a good impression on Croyton, since if all goes well with the business, the Anginus will be indebted to him, but he can't say no when his father asks Croyton to double-check the products first, which the guild head promises to bring during his next visit. The Duke is aware that his first son is too arrogant, his second son is of no use, and his third son is unwilling to accomplish anything. His only daughter and eldest child, Shanane, is the most qualified to take over the family, but Lulak has concerns about her husband. He then explains to Clerivan that it is a Lombardi rule that he should keep out of the succession rivalry, thus, he must distribute opportunities fairly, including the business venture Viese is handling. On the other hand, Tia's first day of class with her cousins is upon her, and while Belizak is obviously distressed to see her, her twin cousins immediately push him aside and excitedly welcome Firentia, who sparked their curiosity about how she beat up Belizak. The twins seem like adorable little troublemakers. Teacher Clerivan then walks into the room, and he looks absolutely dazzling today. Tia sits down on the sofa, but she has no idea why the Blondie twins Giulio and Mayron, her Aunt Shanane's sons, are fixated on her since they have never shown interest in her before. They never bullied her, but they did ignore her when she used to be bullied by Belizak and Astaliu. During the lecture, Tia notices Belizak is sleeping, and Clerivan makes no effort to wake him up or even urge the kids to pay attention. This reminds her that Clerivan always reports everything to their grandfather, so she makes sure he knows she's paying attention. Her trembling lips and sparkling eyes make her irresistibly adorable. Clerivan then shows them a piece of log just before class finishes and tells them that they have an assignment to sell, but they can't use their status to forcefully sell it. The soft-spoken Lorraine, who sits quietly in the back, raises her hand to inquire if they would be required to carry the wood home by themselves, and is happy to learn that their individual logs have already been brought to their homes. Tia can't help but grin when she sees the reserved and sweet Lorraine, but she finds it hard to believe that this little girl is Bully Zach's sister. Is she? I really wish Tia became close to the twins and Lorraine. Tia visits Gala Daddy after class for a bear hug and to ask if he may draw Grandma's face. Not in a portrait style, but rather like the way he remembers his mother. Gallahan had the best time sketching his mom, Natalia, and now he has a beautiful drawing that even Tia finds captivating. Tia then visits the town created by the Lombardi just outside their estate, where their talented workers live and make all of the Lombardi's exclusive products. She is here to look for Alfeo Jean, a genius sculptor who will become famous in his 30s, but for the time being, he is a carpenter recognized by the Lombardi for his talent. For his first piece as a sculptor, he will create the world tree and present it to the Lombardi family. This magnificent work will rocket him to fame across the empire, but today, Alfeo is just a young carpenter. When Tia sees him, she immediately tells him that she knows he is talented at sculpting, prompting him to humbly deny it and state that he simply crafts sculptured toys and sells them. In an effort to boost his self-esteem, Tia declares that being able to sell his sculptures already makes him a professional. With that stated, our charming Tia requests that he sculpt a person's face for her. I see, selling Grandma's wooden portrait, aren't you, little sneaky jelly bean? Despite Alfeo's hesitation to comply with Firentia's request, he reluctantly says that he might be able to complete it in 4 days. Before he can reconsider, Tia quickly assigns him the task and gives him the sketch she wants sculpted. She then uses her sparkling eyes to beg him to do a good job, promising to compensate him, which Alfeo finds so cute. Who wouldn't? Tia is completely absorbed in her book when her twin cousins burst into her room, cuddling her and full of excitement to play with her. So she warns them that if they keep bugging her, she will not play with them forever, causing the two to panic. However, she promises to play with them when she's not busy, bringing smiles to the twins' faces as they bid her farewell. So cute. This makes her recall that in her former life, after her Aunt Shanane divorced, the twins were unconcerned enough to alter their father's surname, Schulz, and act as if they had no connection to the Lombardis. I wonder what happened. Just then, her father enters the room, excitedly announcing the completion of his latest book, which he believes his daughter will appreciate, so they agree to read it together. She discovers that the book is intended for her when she reaches adulthood and begins to wear grown-up gowns, so she can at least understand what styles of dresses were popular for generations in the Empire, as trends always return. Although mothers often handle such matters, he wishes to be ready to look out for her when the time comes, since it's just the two of them. The fact that he's trying in his own way to provide Tia with what a mother would have done for her is so… never seen a father as sweet as him. My heart! Tia feels highly emotional about this and begins to cry because she has never attended a banquet because her family forgot about her after her father died. All of Gallahan's books were also packed away, making Tia wonder if he wrote books for her in the same way that he does now. In her tight embrace, she asks her father to promise that he will one day choose a dress for her. He smiles and accepts, making her cling to him even more. I'm just happy that Tia now has the chance to save him. I'll protect Daddy too if I can. Suddenly, she hears a carriage approaching. She hurriedly recommends to her father that they take a walk around the garden, thinking it would be a great chance for him to find some stability. The carriage actually carries the fabric that Lulak and Clerivan want to check, while Viese arrogantly assures them that the eastern section of the Empire has traditionally used the cloth provided by Sir Croydon himself. After inspecting the shabby material, Lulak concludes that the purpose of this business is to simply bribe the Empress. He can already tell that Viese believes that if the business succeeds, he will strengthen his connection with the Empress. Little does he realize that if it fails, the Lombardi family will face the brunt of the Empress's wrath. Lulak is about to express his concerns with Viese when Firentia's voice interrupts him. Tia greets her grandfather with such a cute smile and hugs him while ignoring her Uncle Viese. As she should. Granddaddy then carries her, explaining that they are discussing the prospect of selling fabric from the Koroi grass, which she knows is bound to fail as this is what happened in her past life. Gallahan then enters the scene, exhausted from chasing her daughter, who enthusiastically informs him that Grandpa is selling fabric. She keeps discussing that Koroi fabric with her father, hoping to get his attention, and it surely does, because now Gallahan is surprised to see the cloth for the first time and casually mentions that it's rough, as they say in the books. He then promptly apologizes for his manners and urges Tia to go, but Lulak stops him and wants to elaborate more about Koroi fabric. So he tells them that it's a material often used by commoners because it is simple to make, which makes Croyton react and realize that the person who handled the fabric scammed him. Gallahan continues by explaining that the fabric's reliance on plant stems makes it vulnerable to moisture, rendering it unusable. Seeing Croyton's worried reaction prompts Gallahan to consider alternative options. He then informs him that Koroi grows everywhere in the area, so he can produce it again, and if he plans to market the product to nobles, he outlines methods for doing so, making him eagerly listen as Gallahan goes on and Clerivan joins the discussion, prompting the ever-kind Gallahan to exit. However, his father declares that he should take over the business, causing Viese to react. But Lulak insists that Croyton needs a knowledgeable person in that field. Gallahan is uncertain because he isn't good with business, but Tia can't pass up this opportunity, so she uses her charming puppy eyes to urge her father, forcing Gallahan to surrender and accept the job. She believes that if business goes well with the two families, she will soon receive an invitation to meet the second prince in the Imperial Palace. Upon receiving the sculpture from Alfeo today, Firentia is so taken aback by its beauty that she joyfully embraces it and expresses her sincere thanks to him. In return, Alfeo expresses his gratitude for the chance and for having faith. That day, she waits for Grandpa in the hallway to show him something, and when he sees the sculpture of his wife Natalia, he is speechless. Tia then informs him that it is her gift for him and that her father drew it and had a friend sculpt it. She chose to do this not simply to win him over, but also because she is aware that Grandpa Lulak will be devastated when he loses his sight and can no longer see his wife's photos in the future. At least now he can trace his wife's face in the same way he's doing it right now, leading Tia to ask whether her gift makes him happy, and he gladly admits that it does. That's all she needs to hear, and it doesn't matter if she fails to complete her task since she believes she'll do well the next time. She really loves Granddaddy. I thought she'd sell it to him. However, Lulak reminds her about the importance of reciprocating when receiving a thoughtful gift, and he asks if there's anything she desires. This leads her to reflect and grin before telling her grandfather about her friend Alfeo, who sculpted the statue. Today is the day Clerivan will check their assignments. Bully Zack stayed out of it. The twins got paid for the firewood they sold, and Lorraine created charcoal, which she sold to the manor's blacksmith. Clerivan praises the little girl, while Tia is surprised because Lorraine is generally reserved and timid. Then, when Clerivan inquires about Firentia's task, she announces to everyone that she had the log intricately carved and presented as a gift. The recipient graciously offers the emerald brooch she is currently wearing as a gesture of gratitude, which prompts Belizak to react, but our self-assured girl calmly informs him that he can verify it personally, as the recipient is their grandfather. As she gazes upon his scared face, a smile spreads across her lips, knowing that this is only the beginning of her achievements. Slay, girl, slay! Lorraine is Belizak's half-sister, and Tia knows from their past lives that the Empress will have Lorraine marry a much older nobleman the moment she reaches adulthood. Poor Lorraine will be mistreated, and she'll die alone on her husband's estate, far away from the Lombardis. The last thing that Tia remembers about Lorraine is the day she saw her sobbing in the arms of her maid, clearly distressed by the idea of leaving her family. At the time, Tia believed Lorraine was simply weak, but today she disagrees and believes that this reserved girl is much wiser than Bully Zack and the twins. So in this life, our little snuggle bunny genuinely wants to be friends with her, which Lorraine gratefully accepts. You're telling me that this innocent child will die an awful death because of the Empress's actions? That witch! But I love how Tia is trying to change that. The Lombardi siblings have gathered in the Duke's office where they await their father's arrival. While they wait, Gallahan apologizes to Viese, saying he can return the business their father assigned to him if he wants, which hurts Viese's pride to the point where he grabs Gallahan by the collar. However, the boys abruptly stopped when their sister finally snaps and gives Viese a stern warning to not cause a scene. "Already on my knees, my queen!" Viese then releases Galahad and exits the room, with Laurels following closely behind. While Shanae uses the chance to give Galahad a reality check, telling him that he can never protect anyone if he keeps running away. After learning that his daughter is highly intelligent, Shanae worries that his timidity could negatively impact the child's future, prompting Galahad to reflect. Daddy really needs to step up his game to protect Tia, and I love how Big Sis helps him in realizing this. Meanwhile, our twin dumplings here are playing hide-and-seek with Tia. But while they hide, our girl takes a break under a tree when she notices a young blonde kid having a tantrum. She tries to leave, but it's too late when the kid notices her and gives her a sneer before ordering her to serve him. The kid orders Tia to pick up his hat and lead him to the mansion's gate, but boy, you asked the wrong kid because our girl will never do that. With a straight face, she constantly refuses to do what he demands, until she hears maids yelling for the missing Imperial Highness, causing her to realize that this evil-looking boy is none other than the first prince, Astana Dorelli. Now that his identity has been revealed, he crosses his arms and orders Tia to bow down and pick up his hat. But nah, Tia couldn't care less and simply walks away, ignoring him completely. When Astana's maids eventually locate him, he lashes out at the poor head maid, slapping her so hard. This fetus really hit an adult. Crazy! He then instructs her to bring his Imperial knights into the Lombardi, and when the maid informs him that this is against the Empire and Lombardi regulations, he gives her a chilling glare, declaring that everything belongs to his father and himself, his heir. That's not a bratty child, that's for real evil! Meanwhile, the twin nuggets are whining about how Tia found them so quickly, leaving our young girl with no choice but to play with them again. But this time, she wishes to play only inside the main building to avoid meeting the prince in the garden again. However, before they can begin, they notice some knights who are not from Lombardi checking under the tables as if they're searching for someone, which horrifies Tia, leading her to believe that Astana must have dispatched his armed knights to the Lombardi mansion. The long-standing agreement forbids the Imperial family from bringing armed men into the Lombardi mansion. This is because the bond between the two families is more like an alliance than a friendship, and its purpose is to maintain peace inside the Empire. So, you're saying that Lombardi possesses immense influence but are just staying low-key? Love it! Now she can't believe that a mere 10-year-old prince is going to breach the pact. She immediately grabs the twins and frantically tells them to go to their grandfather's office. But they're unable to proceed when the horse-faced schmuck prince appears with his servants. The prince notices Tia's fear and smirks, demanding she kneel. But not while our cute twins are around. They quickly hug Tia and strongly demand to know who Astana is, prompting the prince to order his knights to take away the two boys, leaving Tia to protect them this time. She glares at the knights, warning them not to touch the Lombardi family's direct descendants. Tia then spots Grandpa Lulak and Aunt Shanae from a distance and decides to cry to add drama, which confuses the prince until he hears the great Lulak roaring, forcing him to stutter. Meanwhile, Shanae uses her authoritative voice to command the knights to step aside as she swiftly embraces her twins. Aw, I'm very pleased to see they have such a loving relationship. After the two boys tell Mommy that Tia protected them, she thanks Tia and wipes away her tears to feel better. Then, old Lulak calls out to the servants, telling them that they should not have allowed the prince's lack of education to cause such a mistake. The young prince becomes very embarrassed, and Tia tries to hold back her laughter at her grandpa's implication that the prince is stupid. What a classy way to handle a dim-witted bratty prince! Then, he warns the prince that he can bring this to the attention of the Imperial family because the offense is so grave. But he decides to let it go this time due to the prince's immaturity. Tia is amazed as she listens to her grandpa, who never bows down, not even to the Imperial family, which is exactly the Lombardi way. Well, they are the ones who put the Dorellis on the throne, so yeah. Tia expects to be scolded after the prince leaves, but Grandpa Lulak pats her head and compliments her on not giving in to the prince's demands, which makes her relieved and happy. Aunt Shanae then takes on the task of bringing Tia to her home, and on the way, our brave girl falls asleep in the knight's arms. They place Tia on the sofa as Gala Daddy arrives in a rush, so Big Sis decides to have a chat with him. She reminds him bluntly that their father's health will eventually decline, and just like today, Tia may run into problems when their father is unable to protect her. Plus, Viese would undoubtedly support the Imperial family's desire due to his greed. Before she leaves, she advises him to build strength while their father is still around, and she even offers to take care of Tia when he is out for work, all while flashing her rare smile. I can't express how much I adore this cold-looking yet stunningly beautiful Queen Auntie, shalala! Meanwhile, Astana apologizes to his mother for what happened at the Lombardi estate. But instead of lecturing him, the Empress points out to him that the Lombardis have always acted as if they were the masters of the empire, failing to show due respect to the Imperial family. The Empress also swears to punish Firentia, so all Astana needs to do is obey her orders, which the prince smirks at. Now I feel sorry for this kid. His mind is being poisoned and manipulated by his own disgusting mother. Clerivan concludes their session today with an assignment to come up with a response to the topic of what is the most valuable property for a merchant. Pretty Lorraine then approaches Tia and unexpectedly asks what her favorite color is, which throws her off guard. But she still answers that it is red, leaving Lorraine beaming and the twins taking note. The kids are pure angels, and I am now blessed. Tia tells Galahad this, and he merely chuckles, knowing that her cousins are acting this way because her birthday is approaching. Speaking of presents, Galadaddy cheerfully offers to let her have a horse that is about a year old that she can care for. Our girl has a terrible experience with horses due to her own tragic death at the hands of one. She attempts to persuade Papa that it would be heartbreaking to separate a foal horse from its mother, but he is so moved by her words that he insists on buying the pair instead. Poor girl can't say no when her daddy is beaming with so much joy, so she agrees. Afterward, Tia accompanies her dad to his meeting with Grandpa concerning the fabric business. She can see that despite the wonderful quality, they might use some help with marketing, and she has the perfect solution. Our clever girl spills the tea on the fabric on the table, and Grandpa notices that the cloth absorbs the drink without soaking the documents underneath. The next step is to begin raving about it, convinced that it will undoubtedly be popular. However, Galahad remains skeptical due to the fact that this is his first garment and not many people are familiar with it just yet. Step 3 is to subtly say that if people had tried his product in advance, they would definitely want it, which Galahad agrees with, prompting Lulok to propose that they give nobles the fabric sample as a gift. For the last step in helping Daddy's business, she cutely requests a piece of handkerchief made from the fabric to give to the twins. A prototype handkerchief is such a brilliant concept that Galahad is eager to meet Croydon immediately and discuss it. The only manipulation that I enjoy. Now that Galahad has left, Granddaddy invites Tia to dinner, which she gladly accepts. While they're eating, Lulok asks Tia if she has any special requests. She takes it as a request for a birthday present. Granddaddy mentions giving her an entire library, and Lulok doesn't mind if she wants to use it all for herself. Despite how tempting it is, she turns it down and instead asks him to do her a favor as a birthday present. Her emerald eyes, curly locks, plump cheeks, and tiny hands? May I keep you in my pockets? Grandpa Lulok chuckles at her request for a favor, yet she remains resolute, knowing that her grandfather's power can only resolve the issue she knows will happen in the future. Lulok pauses for a moment, then confirms that they will do it, which makes her delighted, and she promptly thanks him. Today, Galahad waits uneasily for the guildmaster, awaiting the outcome. Just then, Sir Croydon rushes into the room, joyfully exclaiming that as soon as they start selling the fabric, massive orders pour in, leading Galahad to cry with relief and drink to celebrate their accomplishment. Croydon then wonders why he changed his strategy halfway through, causing him to explain that he believes a handkerchief will be sufficient as a sample to get a positive response from the consumers. Croydon commends him for the handkerchiefs, noting that they have received numerous orders from various locations, and he attributes all the credit for their success to Galahad. Galahad suddenly declares that once fabric production is stable, he intends to leave the business, shocking Croydon. Galahad reassures him that once the production process is completed, it will be simple for him to keep the business running on his own. He then informs Croydon that he'll be pursuing a different business under his name, not the Lombardi Guild. This is because Galadaddy believes that if he has a business in his name, Tia will have a consistent source of support, and he is now resolved to do everything in his ability to secure his daughter's future. Daddy looks so fine when he's serious, and I love how he's working hard for his daughter. As they continue their drinking session, Croydon believes Galahad will achieve great success one day and feels compelled to inform the Empress so she can constantly monitor him. It has been days, and as Firentia walks, she notices a drastic change in the demeanor of the servants, as they are consistently showing her respect and treat her with kindness, leading her to believe that her father's business success plays a role in this. That day, Firentia gives a fruitcake for Estira, who graciously accepts the thoughtful gesture and promptly prepares their tea to complement the cake. While eating, Estira inquires about her wrist, prompting Tia to showcase its complete recovery with a delicate motion. They have a lengthy conversation, and once Firentia senses a comfortable ambiance, she inquires about Estira's dream. Estira then reveals her desire to join the academy as a researcher, specializing in medical botany. And despite the high cost of the academy, she is determined to save enough money for a full year's tuition, and intends to pursue scholarships in the future. When the Imperial family established the academy, it was open to all who passed the exam, regardless of their social status. But due to the expensive tuition fee, it has now become a professional education institution for the elite. Tia offers Estira her assistance out of the blue and points out that she is a Lombardi with a few months' allowance that is enough to pay her tuition. Estira laughs nervously as she can't believe she is talking to a 7-year-old, but she is smart enough to understand that this is a bargain, so she asks what she needs to do in exchange. It makes Tia want to trust her even more, but as a child, she pouts and claims she simply believes in her abilities. But she'll still accept a birthday present from her. Tia then instructs her to prepare a highly concentrated Melcon medicine, which can be consumed for a month. Estira pauses momentarily and knows that Melcon medication is a type of nutritional supplement suitable for people of all ages, so making it as she requested is completely harmless. Estira is unaware that the medicine can cleanse poison from one's body, and Tia intends to use it to save someone's life. Oh, is it Daddy? Another day, another class, and today they are discussing the previous homework Clerivan gave them about a merchant's most valuable asset. Lorraine responded, "A reliable client," prompting Clerivan to ask Tia whether she agrees. But she shakes her head and states that for her, people are the most valuable asset. She believes that no matter how competent a person is, they cannot accomplish everything alone, and that people's emotions can change depending on their circumstances. So instead of only supplying money, it is also vital to provide what they need the most in order to maintain their loyalty. This prompts Clerivan to pause for a bit before ending their class for the day, which makes the twins happy. Tia is apprehensive as she and the twins approach the banquet hall since, in her former life, she spent her 8th birthday party quietly with just her father. But now she senses that everything is progressively changing. Lorraine greets her on her birthday, and they all make their way to the front while everyone talks about them. That's the pride of the Lombardis. Tia then looks around for her father, but is pleased to see her grandpa, who informs her that he has invited several of his friends to celebrate her birthday. She observes that everyone is dressed lavishly, implying that the majority of them are high-ranking nobles, as only those of status are invited to the Lombardi residence, which only proves how powerful the Lombardi family is. She then inquires about her father, prompting Grandpa to inform her that Galahad's work is taking longer than he expected, but he promises to come straight to the feast afterwards. Then, just as her grandfather is about to begin the banquet, everyone is startled to see the first prince walk up to her and personally congratulate her on her birthday. Oh my, this child ruined what could have been beautiful! The first prince apologizes for his previous rudeness and presents her with a lovely necklace as a birthday gift. She smiles and expresses her gratitude, despite her reluctance to accept the gift. Worse, he offers to put it on her, which she cannot refuse. Observing her expressions, Grandpa decides to break the tension and raise his glass to start the celebration. After that, he gives her head pats and urges her to eat because it's her birthday, which leads her to believe that her grandpa is aware of her bad mood, so she resolves to shake it off, removes the necklace, disregards the first prince, and just have fun. However, while walking, she notices the first prince following her, who arrogantly states that he is not following her because he wishes to be with her, making her believe that it is an order from the Empress. She does, however, make it clear that she does not have time for him and advises him to find someone else. Just as Belizak and Estalio arrive, they invited the first prince to tour the mansion, while her aunt Chananay comes to her rescue, reminding her that it is time to open her presents. She is relieved to be free of the annoying prince. For the first time, Bully Zack was helpful. Tia and her loving cousins are opening her gifts, including this, oh my goodness, adorable Craney, who is smaller than the gift box he's holding. He is Estalio's younger brother and has yet to be tainted by the family, so the 5 of them continue opening presents when her father arrives, looking so damn good with his brushed-up hair and white suit. She then runs towards him while Lulak grumbles about him being late, but their moment is cut short when the prince approaches them to deliver an invitation to Galahad to a dinner the Empress has organized. This makes Viese so furious, while Firentia is overjoyed that it is finally happening. She can now meet the second prince, Perez, at the palace. After receiving an invitation, Auntie Shanane makes an effort to teach our little lady proper etiquette, who is currently grumbling about how difficult it is. She gets a little poke in the nose from Auntie, who then reassures her that with practice, she'll get better, as the twin cheese balls on the back bench whine about wanting to play with their baby cousin. After that, her aunt gives her a pat on the head and admits that she's always wanted to have a daughter like her, all while sighing over her naughty twins, when suddenly, Vestian bursts in, beaming with joy. His sons rush up to embrace him, revealing how close they are to him, while Tia is simply being a sweetheart as she greets her uncle. Tia knows how much Vestian Schultz adores her auntie, since despite being the man in the family, he chooses to live with the Lombardi. After silently leaving the room, she's left wondering why, after witnessing what a lovely family they are, they will get a divorce in 3 years. Vestian seems suspicious. Anyway, Estira finally completes the medicine Tia requested, but she worries about who will use it, as she knows Tia will be heading to the palace. This prompts Tia to reassure her that she will give the medicine to someone in the palace who truly needs it. When the time comes, she promises to tell her everything, but for now, she asks Estira to keep this little secret between them. Tia and Gallahan are now in the carriage heading to the palace, where our little girl is trying to ease her anxious father, when their carriage suddenly comes to a stop. The Imperial Knights seem to be insisting that they inspect their carriage. They dare inspect the great the Lombardi carriage? Galladaddy exits the carriage, and we get to see his angry face again as he uses his Lombardi authority to speak to those uncultured knights. Carriages bearing the Lombardi crest are exempt from inspection according to the agreement between the two families. But the Empress has decided to violate this agreement today. Tia, who is still in the carriage, is fretting about where she may hide her pouch containing the medicine, because if discovered, she will undoubtedly be interrogated, when she notices someone in the forest. Returning to Gallahan, he decides to allow them to search the carriage under the strict condition that they must not touch either his daughter or him, or else he will ensure they lose their positions. Galladaddy is still a softie here, but when he turns around to get Tia, he is surprised to find her gone. Tia is already wandering somewhere in the woods, convinced she saw the second prince. In her previous life, Tia knew that the Empress had imprisoned Perez and his mother in the West Forest, a location where she could still monitor them closely. After Perez's mom died, the Empress gradually poisoned the young prince. Although Perez survives, he will suffer from severe insomnia. When Tia finally stumbles upon Perez after a while of walking, she is shocked to see how lifeless and grubby the young cinnamon roll appears. But the most unsettling thing is when he keeps munching on the grass, prompting her to grab his hand and ask what he is doing. The emotionless little boy explains that his tummy hurts, while Tia can only stand there, realizing that this is how the future crown prince endured his childhood without his mom and was abused by the Empress. Unacceptable! That evil blonde witch hag is really getting on my nerves. Tia then hastily rustles through her bag and hands him the medicine while introducing herself, unaware that she started crying. Her opinion of Perez now has changed, given that in the past, she believed that Perez lacked sympathy when she heard that the Empress was imprisoned and died painfully without medical assistance. But now she sees that the prince was merely seeking revenge. Her thoughts are cut at once as Perez returns the medicine to her because he's concerned that she will die for helping him. Tia assures him without hesitation that she will not die, which confuses the little boy. So she confidently explains that her grandfather is an extremely powerful and great guy who can protect her. Once again, she rummages through her bag and hands him a jar of sweets as she rushes through the instructions, telling him to take half a spoonful of medicine twice a day, but that he must pretend to be sick whenever someone is looking. She then explains to him that the reason his stomach aches is because the Empress and her servants are feeding him something bad. Tia sighs, believing Perez would find it difficult to trust her. However, she is taken aback when Perez asserts his trust in her. After all, he is helpless in the moment anyway. He goes on to explain that his mother's dying wish was for him to live, so he did everything he could, even eating grass to stay alive. But now that he's getting ill and everyone is hoping he dies, he's getting tired. So he asks Tia if she wishes him to live. That just broke my heart. Hearing Perez look for validation prompts her to apologize to him because prior to today, his life story was only a few sentences she read in the newspaper. She didn't consider how much suffering Perez was going through because she assumed that because he would become crown prince and carry out such brutal revenge, the pain he was going through would be reasonable. In her heart, she apologizes for not reaching out to him sooner, and she begins crying again as she declares that he must survive. Following that, her father's distant voice tells her it's time to go, and Perez is as sad as a puppy because of it. Tia may be smaller than him, but she's able to pat his head and promise to bring him books the next time she visits before leaving. They're adorable together. Meanwhile, Perez holds onto his medicine and sweets, finally showing a faint smile as he eagerly awaits his reunion with her. My boy is so precious. During the meal with the Emperor and the Empress, Galahad, our soft-hearted daddy, surprises everyone by openly expressing his distaste with the Empress's knights for stopping the Lombardi carriage earlier. Galahad is so firm that he even questions the Emperor if there are any misunderstandings, which surprises both the Emperor and the Empress because, according to what they know, Lulak's third son is a timid guy. Clearly, Lombardi is in his blood. They try to laugh it off, claiming that the knights must be new recruits. But after the dinner, Tia recognizes that because the Emperor is keeping the Lombardi in check using Enganus, it is logical to expect him to defend the Empress. However, watching the Empress half-heartedly apologize to Galahad while appearing so wicked reveals she definitely has a grudge against the Lombardis. Tia tries to summarize today's events now that she's in bed. First, Daddy, who had been avoiding the spotlight, finally came out of hiding and now has a strained relationship with the Empress. Secondly, the knowledge that the poison will no longer harm Perez fills her with relief. The next day, our little peanut wakes up full of resolve, promising herself that the word later will no longer exist in her vocabulary. She intends to do what she can right now, such as request a letter of recommendation for Estira to secure her admission to the academy. Aw, what happened with Perez really hit her hard, huh? They go to Dr. O'Malley's office to get a recommendation letter, but to their surprise, the doctor has already granted one to a student he taught years ago. Tia feels defeated, but she assures Estira that she will get her a letter from someone else, considering that a recommendation letter is like a free ticket to the academy. However, Estira insists she's alright, saying that she still feels she's missing a lot of things, which is likely why the doctor handed his letter to someone else, making Tia freak out because she really needs to enroll her in the academy this year. Girl, you better follow Tia or I'll whip your bum-bum! We need to save Daddy! The two decide to take the discussion over tea, where Tia questions Estira for her lack of confidence, when the fact that the Lombardi family accepted her under its learning system already makes her a prodigy. Because Tia has been watching, she knows that most of Dr. O'Malley's medicines are ones that she developed herself. This suggests that Estira has the necessary skills. Thus, Tia fails to understand her lack of confidence. Wait, the doctor is getting credit for the medicine she created, isn't he? That dude is sus! However, when Estira sheepishly admits that she's only mindful of her status, Tia realizes her situation. A young commoner who must have heard insults from those in power. Estira's brilliance must have been viewed as luck, whereas attempting to become great is viewed as greed. Tia understands this well because that is how she lived in her previous life. But now that she realizes it's pointless to worry about what other people think, Tia decides to challenge Estira today, boldly declaring that she will get the recommendation letter from the great Lulak. Estira looks so shocked as if she'd just seen a ghost, but Tia continues in informing her that her grandpa will not give out the letter to just anybody. Thus, Estira must prove her worth before receiving it. Estira feels quite unsure, but Tia assures her that she isn't putting any pressure on her. Rather, she genuinely believes in Estira's ability and that even if she fails, she can try again next year. Check who's sneaking into Lulak's office. It's young Tia, who can't contain her joy because Grandpa is with Sir Brochelle at the very moment she needs them. Tia promptly sits on Grandpa's lap and surprises him by requesting that he write a letter of recommendation, prompting Grandpa to freeze in disbelief. After that, Tia turns to Sir Brochelle and asks him the same thing, which makes him freeze up too. Our cheeky girl just casually requests for such a powerful letter. Well, these two grandpas are definitely powerless to our Tia's cuteness. Sitting down to eat her cookie, Tia informs the Gramps that Estira can produce any medicine, and that Dr. O'Malley mainly uses the medicines she produces, leading Sir Brochelle to believe that Estira should hone her skills at the academy. Her grandfather, on the other hand, expresses concern about giving a letter of recommendation, as it would imply endorsing Estira and potentially jeopardizing the Lombardi name. However, Tia is eager to show how excellent Estira's medicine is, challenging them to decide after witnessing it firsthand. If the results are favorable, she asks her grandfather and Sir Brochelle to promise her a letter of recommendation. Tia is now back in her room, her mind fully engrossed in the idea of finding a medicine that would meet the high standards of both her grandfather and Sir Brochelle. After pondering for a while, Tia realizes that finding the solution won't be easy, so she decides to assist her father, who is sighing heavily, in the hopes that it will help her relax too. So she advises her dad to talk to her if something is bothering him, and though he is hesitant at first, he succumbs to her persuasive sparkling gaze and gives in. She's cute and she knows it. Even though our girl seems like she doesn't get it after Gala Daddy explains everything, she is actually gushing over her father's business brilliance for thinking of such a concept in this era. She can already see that if the business grows, the entire flow of the Empire's commerce will undoubtedly change. But of course, as a kid, she can't just lecture her father about this. So she suggests he consult Clerivan if he has any doubts. Ooh, I'm curious about that business. After giving it some thought, Clerivan's business sense is always correct, so Daddy agrees to consult with him. Now that her father's problem is solved, Tia suddenly realizes that the medicine does not have to be unique, but rather something that can alleviate a common ailment, particularly among the elderly. She hastily departs the room to see Estira, and as soon as she sees her, she greets her with a big hug, overjoyed to have found a solution. I bet it's arthritis medicine. Today, Dr. O'Malley enters the lab room, and seeing Estira conducting a small experiment leads him to conclude that Firentia must have pressed her to do so. He then pats her on the shoulder, apologizing for not recognizing how much she wants to join the academy. But he hopes she won't be greedy, because he promises to send her a letter of recommendation next year or the year after. This guy actually gave his recommendation letter to the son of a nobleman named Flan, who had also learned that Estira is trying to secure a letter of recommendation from the Lombardi family. Flan then offers O'Malley a dazzling jewel as a bribe to ensure that Estira does not enter the academy, since he cannot allow his son to be in the same place as the commoner. Ugh, what a greedy quack doctor! And Flan, you trash! Despite Estira's quivering voice, she refuses to follow the doctor, which really infuriates him. Even though Estira is shaking with fear, she tells him that she wants to live up to Lady Tia's expectations, as she is the only one who has ever encouraged her rather than mocked her in dreams. The doctor clenches his fist and declares that if Estira continues to refuse to listen to him, he would never offer her a letter of recommendation, which causes her to pause for a moment before she accepts. As a result, the doctor yells at her and storms out of the room, leaving Estira feeling shaken and worried if she has made an irreversible mistake. But just like Tia, she decides to believe in herself this time. Atta girl, you can do this! That much is true, but let's go! We'll stop here for today, guys. Yes, I know you want more. Don't forget to ask for the next part in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching and for your support. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Till the next one.